Okay, so my project is called Easy Online, and the goal with it is basically to include the elderly population in the internet area. So for some background, we know today that almost everything is possible to do on the internet, everything from shopping to online banking and even doctor's visits. However, research has shown that only about half or a little bit more uh, of the age group between 55 and 74 in the European Union are online, and even less are on social networking sites such as Facebook or Instagram, etc. Research has shown that elderly who are not online risk being excluded from the communities. And obviously, we also miss out on opportunities that new technology can offer. In a survey by Kaiser Family Foundation in 2005 with elderly Americans, 1 out of 5 answered that they would actually go online if there was just a tool that could teach them how to use the internet. And this has also been suggested in research that it's actually a lack of skills that is the greatest barrier for elderly to use the internet. So based on this research, the idea behind the system is to create an e-learning portal which is exclusively aimed at the elderly population. So the users will basically learn how to use different online tools such as online banking, Facebook, calling for Skype, etc. The portal would have a mix of videos and exercises, and it would all be suited for elderly individuals that might have decreased cognitive capacities or hearing impairments, etc. In addition to the exercises and videos, the users will also be able to contact support, either through chat, phone, or email. And the portal will be a website, a responsive website, which is suitable for computers, tablets, and smartphones. So for a generative session, I was in Chiang Mai in Thailand, so I chose just to have one session as it showed to be quite difficult to find participants. Eventually, I found 3 participants in a Facebook group for expats in Chiang Mai. And the session took place at a quiet restaurant just outside Chiang Mai city center. Before the session started, we had about half an hour on, well, we took that time to get to know each other, which I found really important because it basically kind of eased the participants when they got to know me and knew what the session was about. During the session, the participants could ask any questions, but I would not give them any feedback. So the first method I used, I chose to call My Day with Technology. The participants basically received a white paper with a timeline. And as you can see on the left-hand side, it's waking up. And on the right side, it's going to bed. So the task was basically for the participants to fill out how they interact with technology throughout the day. And this could be anything from reading the newspaper on a tablet or messaging with friends on Messenger. And the purpose of this exercise was to find out if there are any patterns in how the target group use technology and if there are any differences compared to how the younger generation use technology. And here are some pictures from the session. The second method I used was a diagram I chose to call interest skills diagram. And the x axis on the diagram means, or basically shows how well a participant know how to use a service or system, whilst the y-axis shows how interested the participant is to learn how to use the system or service. So the participants were given about 15 to 20 different icons of different services or systems, and then they had to place all of these on the diagram. And the purpose of this was to find out basically if there are any patterns, any special system or group of services that they are interested in learning but don't really have the skills for currently. The last method was observing the participants in action, and this was pretty straightforward. The participants, they all had their smartphones with them, were basically told to find the cheapest flight from Bangkok to Stockholm on the 10th of December. And there was no limitation for what services or websites you could use. And the purpose of this was to see the target group in action and how they interact with technology. For the results, quite fast in the first exercise, I could see there was a great difference in technological knowledge between the participants. Two of the participants had more of a technical background. They had both worked in IT, whilst the third one didn't really have much skills on how to use technology. And the greatest difference I could see for the first method was that for the two participants who had skills on how to use technology, technology was more an integrated part of everyday life. They would text their friends on the go, or it was just more natural use. Whilst for the third participants, the use of technology was more of a planned action. So he would decide, now I'm going to sit down and read the newspaper for half an hour, or he would decide, now I will reply my friends on Facebook, etc. And the important reflection here is that the goal of the service maybe the goal should rather be to make technology a natural part of everyday life, rather than just only teach the user specific tools or services. For the second method, there was a major distinction. The two participants who were used to using technology obviously were more familiar with more kind of services and tools, whilst the third participants only knew a few different services such as Facebook, YouTube, and online banking. However, the most important observation from this method, I don't think is what the users knew, but rather what they didn't. What you see as a pattern was that all participants were very uninterested in learning about services or tools which they hadn't heard about before. And this went definitely for both of the ones who were used to using technology as well. So even if I would describe a service we didn't know about in detail and explain it, they would just reject it immediately, saying that this is nothing for me, or this is just for the young people, etc. As for the third method, the two participants with a lot of knowledge with technology could quite easily and fast find the cheapest flight, whilst the third participants ran into problems. As you can see here on the picture, it asks the participant if he's a robot. And from this, we had a quite interesting discussion. The participant basically said when it came up, something like, oh, not this crap again. This always happened, but I don't know what to do. When I press no, nothing happens. And when I ask him, what do you think this means? He says, I don't know, but it's really frustrating. I really hate when my phone doesn't work or when these things happen. And I asked him, do you often run into these kind of problems? He said, yeah, all the time. I know how to use Google and stuff, but when these unexpected things happen, I have no idea what to do. And I think this shows the importance of teaching the target group how to act when things don't go as planned or when you run into troubles online. So for revised ID based on results, firstly, I think the goal of the service should change. From the beginning, the initial idea was that the portal would teach different kind of tools or systems or services, but the goal should maybe rather be to make new technology an integrated part of elderly people's lives. The second one is that elderly are often reluctant to new services and technologies that we haven't heard about yet. So I do think that it's very important to introduce new services or tools in a soft way, in an easy digested way to the users. Thirdly, it's also really important to make tutorials for how to use technology or the internet if something actually would go wrong. Lastly, after a session, the participants could freely express their feelings and opinions. And here I had a really interesting conversation with the third participant, the participant who had the least technological skills. He told me that he's very interested in learning about new technology, that he would also like to know how to make free calls or install VPN since they live abroad, or use WhatsApp. But his biggest obstacle was fear. He had heard rumors about new technology and that it's easy to get scammed or to get your identity stolen. And he also said that many of his friends actually had the same fear. So once again, I do think that it's very important to have a kind of soft introduction to not only services and tools, but also internet and technology in general for elderly people who are not used to dealing with it. And some important questions that could be addressed in the beginning for new beginners could be if the internet is dangerous, if it's possible to get your identity stolen, and how can you know if a site is trustable or not. So to take basically to look at it from a bigger perspective and to basically to introduce technology and the internet and address any kind of concerns that new users could have. Yes.